All right, everybody. According to StreamYard, we are live. So wherever you are on this Monday evening, I hope you're well. Here's Georgia. Hi, Georgia.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
So glad that we are catching up and talking about what you're up to. It's so amazing, my friend. So do you want to just take a couple of minutes to see if the link is live on my Facebook and then repost that? We'll wait for a few
Yes.
people to come in anyway. Hopefully we'll get some people listening to us. Can you see it? Is it there?
Oh, yes, I can.
That's great. So we're going to be, I won't talk to you, Georgia, but I'll talk to anybody who happens to be kind of checking out right now, just checking us out. What we're about to do is talk about a really, really important project that I've become aware of. Georgia is an absolute rock star in my world, and I'm really happy to just, like when she was talking to me, I was so happy to hear about this that I just wanted to spend some time kind of finding out more about this, but sharing it with my personal community, but also with the Fight Legends community. I'm sitting in the general manager role for Fight Legends. We've got a big community, and not only that, we have committed that a bunch of projects will be supported by us. We've been lucky to support some projects already, and what we're going to be talking about tonight is just, it's going to blow your mind. How are you going there, Georgia? Have you done the sharing yet?
I have shared us on Facebook, and I'm just seeing if I can get into my Discord, which I will plug as well too. If there are any women in martial arts listening, and you're on Discord, or if you're not on Discord and you're interested in joining a really badass community of women in combat sports, then maybe send me a message about how to join the Fight Her community, or I can chuck in the comments here.
I'll chuck in the comments here. Maybe if you Facebook message it to me, I'll send it out to all of the platforms, because we're streaming on about 9 platforms right now. So if you send it to my Facebook Messenger, I'll put it up. So just bear with us a little bit, everybody. Thanks for being here. If you're here, feel free to say hi. Make yourself known. We're going to be sharing some really amazing project action with you tonight. Like if you want to support something that is truly transformative to people in the martial arts community, I really, really suggest you stick around and spend some time with us, ask some questions. I'm just going into my Facebook now so I can get that link.
Sweet. I think we're all good.
All right. That's wonderful. Yeah, and there are some people here. So there's people. That's a wonderful thing. So
amazing.
Georgia Berry, the Fight Back project is your baby. Is that right?
It is my baby. It has been my baby for the last 2.5 years. So I guess it's my toddler now.
Cool. And is it sleeping through the night?
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
I think that's more my doings. We've always got new projects on the go, and like this one, of course, is no exemption. But I love that, right? Like every new project that we take on, I take it on because I can't say no. Like it's too deeply embedded in as part of my soul as work that I feel needs to be done. So as much as maybe we're not sleeping through the night, at least we're content.
I love that. So what you're up to here is coming up in July. Is that correct? You're heading off to El Salvador?
Yes, in July I'll be in El Salvador. I'm leaving Australia in 5 days, but I will be in El Salvador for the month of July. And so I suppose we should start with what the Fight Back project is, so that people get a bit of an idea about the kind of work that I do. So the Fight Back project is a trauma-informed kickboxing program. And for the most part, up until now, it's work with women or female-identified persons and non-binary persons who have predominantly been survivors of domestic violence. We also work with women with eating disorders with the hope of helping women connect to their bodies and see their bodies in a different light, rather than being in a mode like all of us, I think, have felt pressured to at some point through exercise to try and change our bodies. We look at seeing that our bodies have agency. They have the capacity to fight back. They already have all the attributes that they need. And so in my program, what I do is I work with women to teach them the fundamentals of kickboxing. But in doing so, we practice body connection. We do resourcing. So looking at ways to find strategies to help bring calm when there's stress, respond to triggers, build relationships with other people. So get peer support from other survivors, but also just become part of a community, which for everyone who's here from a martial arts community, you will know how powerful that can truly be, just to have that as a place in your life where you can go and feel supported and connected. So that's the work that I've been doing here in Australia. And what we're here to talk about now is the dream of bringing it overseas, where I think it can make an equally meaningful difference.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess before we go there, like, what is your personal connection to that? Like, how did you end up in this place, and kind of, I guess, what gives you, such power in that area?
Yeah, so my background's in exercise science, and through that work clinically is how I met a psychologist when I was, I think, deep in the midst of a fight camp. So preparing to have a Muay Thai fight. And he was the first person to suggest that I look into this space of trauma healing through martial arts, because the research suggests that there could be space for that, but no one was really doing it. And for me, it came at a time where I was really disconnected to my body. I had an eating disorder. I had really bad body dysmorphia, and I was using actually a lot of my combat sports, my role as an athlete, as a way to kind of mask that. But I knew deep down that I was very disembodied. And so it was really beautiful for me, because when I started learning about this and thinking like, oh, I'm going to be able to help other people in some way just because I wanted to, the first person that really benefited from me researching and working with a bunch of different psychologists and reading books and just learning as much as I could about the embodied movement space was that, like, I got to come into my body and I got to realize like how disconnected that I was. So then we started the program, and like having it, I suppose, as an ongoing motivation to stay that way, because I think people think of embodiment and body positivity and all of like healing as a linear thing, as like once you're healed you're done, and it's really not like that. You can slip back so easily. So for me, being, I guess, the leader of this community has been huge for me, because it means I have to be a role model to the other women that I work with. So it keeps me in my body, which is awesome, right? At the end of the day, that's where I want to be.
Yeah, it gives you a purpose to stay, I guess, healthy and connected. Yeah, I love that.
Totally.
And well done for, I guess, going on that journey, because it wouldn't be easy. And that brings us to like what these people are dealing with, where you're about to go. Like, they've got the issues that people deal with, but on top of that, their environment is challenging, to say the least. So, I mean, yeah, should we start to talk about where you're going in El Salvador and what the project is?
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to hear different people's responses when I say I'm going to El Salvador. Some people, vague idea that it's a country in Central America. Other people, is that somewhere in Europe? And some people maybe think of like MS-13 or like the gang situation that is there is maybe the idea that people have that comes to mind. But really, El Salvador is a very small country that, for the size that it is, has undergone just years and years and years of significant trauma. And from what I have read, and I can't claim to be an expert, but El Salvador is really a country that has been the victim of capitalism for a long time, in that there's such a small amount of land that as soon as people started taking some of the land and farming it, because it's incredibly fertile land, El Salvador has a lot of active volcanoes. And so it was quickly discovered that you could farm sugar and coffee there. And if you had more land, you had more money. And of course, like, isn't that the goal of existing in our modern world? And so through history, the Salvadorans have really gone through these back and forth through the people versus the elite rich. And what we saw in history is that, long story short, when the people have tried to rise up to fight back, to be able to have ownership of their lands, to have more equality within the country, they have started in these really drawn out guerrilla wars, which largely went so long because of intervention from the United States. The US really poured money into the wars because it supported their agenda. And that's a huge conversation that probably takes away from us focusing on the people, because at the end of the day, like, the numbers are staggering of the amount of people that were decimated, that were killed. And what we saw was this introduction of what would translate into English as iron fist policing, the militarization of policing, where in the 80s, the police/military went into communities and mass incarcerated, mass murdered people for being basically lower class. It's suspicion of being guerrilla fighters and you know, things like that. But really, even the guerrilla fighters were fighting for their freedom. And this led to El Salvador being a country that was really, really almost impossible to live in and make a living and provide for a family. There were very few opportunities to earn money, and wages were incredibly low, which drove people out of necessity to try and migrate to the United States. And what we've seen since then is a politicalization of migration, which is a really, like, academic fancy way of saying that the policy that has been implemented since the trend in the amount of people started going up, amount of people fleeing and seeking refuge from El Salvador and other Central American countries, has caused the route itself to become more and more and more and more dangerous, more and more expensive. So the average cost, I think, to pay a smuggler to get you from El Salvador to the United States is about $12,000 US, which is a huge amount of money for anyone there to save. And even then, of course, there are very, very little to no, there's no guarantees that you're going to make it there. And once you make it there, you're always at risk of being deported. And that's what really happened in the US, is that people at mass started coming to the United States, where unfortunately a lot of people with Salvadoran backgrounds got involved with gangs and the gang culture of LA. And when that started happening, the US was like, well, we can't have this. And so they deported at mass people who had really grown up, like their parents had been refugees. They'd grown up in America. A lot of them didn't even speak Spanish. They went back. So they all got sent back to El Salvador, where there's very few opportunities. And the only thing that they know how to do is to be a part of what they see as a community, a gang community. And so the gang violence there since then has really, really escalated. And now what you see is large areas of the country that are controlled by the gangs, and other areas that are under control by government. Which kind of brings us to where we land with the project now. So there are certain communities that are really exiled from the rest of the country. So they are almost shanty towns. So there's a lot of makeshift housing. They have their own kind of little zones, and they are policed by gangs. So police will sometimes go into the areas to commit police brutality to try and crack down on the gangs, but largely they don't. Largely there's an agreement that's like, don't come in here and we won't attack you, and we won't leave our territory and attack you. And the government, every government in the history of El Salvador has made deals with the gangs. And so, for example, those areas you won't see an ambulance go into. Ambulances refuse to go into those areas. You can't take an Uber into that area. So that they are really quite isolated from the rest of the community. So if you can imagine, it's almost like a ring of steel around that community. They are gated. You need to have windows down when you enter in to show, you know, like you're not from a rival gang or you're not secret policing or anything like that. You really need to know someone to be able to enter the community. But the community itself is not just a community of gang people committing or plotting atrocities. It's a community. It has people running, you know, legitimate businesses. It has families. It has elderly, the whole spectrum. And so my incredible friend, Noelle Brigden, Dr. Noelle Brigden, who's a researcher who looked at, for the majority of her research, the trauma of migration for Central Americans moving through Mexico. And she's a weightlifter, an incredible badass, super, super strong. And she found that weightlifting was her resource that really helped her when she was struggling by spending so much time in this kind of a energy, this kind of atmosphere. If you can imagine spending time in these communities while very inspiring is also really difficult. It's really difficult to see that kind of way of living. And so she decided to bring the two together and to create a gym. And so the gym is called Pesas y Poder, and it would translate into weights and power. And she wanted to create a space where people could come and move, could come and exercise and feel connected to their bodies. And so she's done independent fundraising to build a gym, which against absolutely all odds is still in existence. Sometimes it gets shut down due to risk to participants. If police see people meeting up in a group, that could be misconstrued or misinterpreted as gang violence. But for the most part, it's stayed open. And that means that she's had a gym manager who has employment. She's had trainers who have employment. People have the ability to go and lift weights and to move their bodies in a way that help them get bigger, help them get stronger, help them live longer, as opposed to trying to make themselves smaller. And there's a lot of fat shaming that goes on in El Salvador as well. So I'm talking a lot.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Is there a link to this website? Is there a website for the gym? Is that?
There is, yes.
Great. Maybe if you could send that to me, I could share my screen and we could have a look at that. Do you think that's?
Yeah.
Is that a good idea?
Absolutely good.
None of this is planned, by the way, if you're watching. Like, I just really am so behind, and so is Fight Legends actually as well, behind what George is up to, that I'm finding out about this as we're streaming it. So yeah, I have nothing's planned and we're just in the inquiry here. But I'm just blown away so far by the level of intensity of where you're going. Is it something that is your health, your personal? Are you at risk going here? Is that something that you consider, or is that not important to you?
It's definitely something to consider. I think my whiteness gives me a great deal of privilege. So at the end of the day, if I were to go missing, if I were to be held for ransom, the Australian government would really care. And so it's very unlikely that any gang ruling or any gang instruction would be to target this white person, because it's so risky for them. The risk of being robbed or, seeing things that could be traumatic is high, though. The risk of suffering police brutality is almost none. Really, for me, my white skin is, unfortunately, puts me in just such a place of privilege. The bigger worry, I think, would be that our work would put the community at risk. Right. So we'll talk a bit more about Pesas y Poder, and then we'll talk about the current situation and the escalation of the dictatorship.
Can you please post a link to the website in our Facebook chat, yours and mine, and I'll then share my screen.
Our Facebook chat, yes. Yeah. I put it in our private chat. I don't know if you can see
do we have a private chat? Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Private chat's good. You know StreamYard better than me. That's fine.
Did you find it?
Here we go. I found it. All right, cool. Sharing my screen. All right, share. Share screen. And share this screen. And make us little and make the screen big.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, promoting gender equity, community empowerment, and collective healing from trauma through the practice of strength sport. Great.
You summed it up so well.
Yeah. So do all of these people speak English there? Is that like the website's in English, obviously? So is it a
So the
largely English
founder
speaking?
is an American. The founder's an American researcher, and because the purpose of the website is to have people sponsor their initiatives, and
Mm-hmm.
people with money speak English. So the founder has written all of this in English, but she speaks Spanish,
Okay.
and everyone in the gym speaks Spanish, and very few speaking English. Although better than I think the majority of us speak Spanish, if you
Yeah,
can
great.
imagine.
And so this gym is kind of like it's there, it's established, but it's just getting started in what it's capable of delivering as far as transformation to this community. Is that where we're at?
Exactly. So it started as a program where they, I think, hired a hall or were just kind of doing it as a makeshift in a space. And then
Mm-hmm.
because of COVID, um, they needed to be able to have a semi undercover, semi, open air space because it was such a risk. Nobody was
Mm-hmm.
getting access to vaccines, that don't have good access to hospital care in this community. So if they got COVID, it was really bad. But then how could they exercise if they had, very similar to us in Melbourne, very strict lockdowns in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
And so as they returned from COVID, it was like, well, what do we do about this? And so Noel was like, all right, let's get some funding and let's build. And so literally, like, they built all of the bricks like by hand. Like they had builders come in, but they did everything as cheaply as possible because they were just like, she was selling T-shirts, she was selling, I think, coffee, like everything you
Wow.
could imagine to fundraise.
Just hustling, basically, just doing anything she could.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally just
Love it.
hustling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is a tenure professor, so has now kind of made it the focus of her research because she can select the
Yeah.
areas of her research. And so what they have now is a gym that is complete, but like, if you can imagine, the weights aren't exact, right? Like, a lot of them have been made. She's brought over a lot of equipment like bands and stuff, but it's not like if you go to a gym and you're going to see an Alico bar or a branded,
Mm-hmm.
weight plate, and it's exactly 20 kilos. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, right? Like, you can
No.
use it to be able to get strong, and they really sought to empower people within the community to be able to be the teachers then of correct exercise form and movement, so that people could train without getting injured and things like that. So at the moment, the gym is actually closed right now.
Okay.
And so we can talk about that, right? Like, what is going on right now in El Salvador
Mm-hmm.
is that essentially, so I said, every government in the history of El Salvador has negotiated with gangs.
Mm-hmm.
However, the new president, his name is Bukele, right? He is very young. He was an entrepreneur before he was president, and he's very active on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He has called himself, his tagline on Twitter would translate to the coolest dictator in the world.
Oh my God.
Um,
Okay.
that's what he calls himself. But the people love him
Right.
because he's a man of action, right?
Okay.
So when he was elected president, he said, I'm going to cause big change for El Salvador. So the first thing he did was he made Bitcoin legal tender,
Yeah.
which is a huge decision. Could be
Mm.
positive, could be negative. It's kind of yet to see how that's going to play out. Certainly,
Mm.
every time that Bitcoin has crashed, he's really doubled down on his investment and bought more. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes. It could be a real
Yeah.
positive for the community. It could be
Sure.
a real negative. We don't really know
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah.
But if you can imagine, like, that's the kind of progressive thinking that he
That's
really wants
bold.
as his
Yeah.
image, right?
Yeah.
And he said from the get-go, I am not going to negotiate with the gangs openly, right? I will
Mhm.
never do that. I am here to enforce government policy, and we are going to be, looking after honest Salvadoran people, and like, we can't have the gangs. The gangs are the root of all evil.
Mhm.
It's kind of been like the thing that he's gone on and on about on his soapbox.
Mm.
And what happened was, in March, there was an unprecedented day of gang violence where 60 something, I'm not sure exactly how many people were murdered.
Wow.
As what seemed like kind of a retaliation from the gangs at the fact that he was secretly making deals with them. So what all governments have done is make deals with the gangs to keep killing either secret, or like they don't report it, or they keep it low at certain times so that their quota for murders is lower. If you can imagine that that's the reality that people live with there.
Wow.
And there was this big retaliation from the gangs where they killed a lot of people. No one's really sure why. However, in response to that, what he did was suspend the Constitution and declared a state of emergency, where he completely militarized the police and sent them into certain areas. So the area where our gym is one of those areas, and said anybody who is suspect of being involved with gangs needs to come in for questioning. You're under arrest for questioning. And what's happened is people have been brought in under arrest, never questioned, just thrown in jail, and then given sentences. And they do not have a right to legal representation. They do not have a right to have like any evidence shown against their charges. Just if somebody says you're in a gang, then they're being detained indefinitely. And we've seen already, I think 20 or 30 people have died in prison because of overcrowding, because of torture, because the conditions in prison are horrendous. And he's arrested so far 38,000 people, which I think means that in total now 2% of the entire population are in jail, which is something that is huge. It's a huge percentage of the total population of Salvadoran people are in jail. And what it means is that people don't know where their sons are. They don't know where their husbands are. So they don't know where the men of their family are. And it's predominantly men, but some women as well are being incarcerated. And so, you know, the way that community life works there is you need to band together. It's not like I'm Georgia and I went to uni and then I have a job and I support myself and I maybe choose to have housemates, but I could live alone, or maybe I do live alone and then I visit my partner. It's not like that. You need to live in a community and you pool your income together to be able to survive. So the primary breadwinner being the men, oftentimes leaving families is just, it means that the families starve. It means that kids are really malnourished. It means that nobody has enough to eat because nobody can earn money while they're also looking after kids. And we're not sure how this is going to end. So, like I said, he's suspended the Constitution. He's declared a state of emergency. He's doing huge retaliation. And to be honest, it's hugely popular in El Salvador in a lot of places. People say, like, he's a man of action. He's cleaning up the streets. He's getting rid of the gangs. But it's a massive human rights violation. And yeah, who knows what's going to happen next. So our plan is to go into the gym still. At the moment, we have special permission from the police because we're going to work just with the women. So we would work with men and women, but in this situation, it's too dangerous for men to be seen in a group learning to fight. That could very easily be considered as preparing for gang involvement, just hitting pads. So we can't. Women, it's a very machismo society. So the idea that a woman could teach martial arts to a high quality is kind of laughable there, which is in our favor. I'm fine for them to think that. And the idea that women learning self-defense could mean anything is also kind of laughable. The idea that women could fight back is laughable, which just give us the opportunity to still go into the community and work with women there. And so we've been doing, that's our plan A, I should say. That's our plan A. We've got like many backup plans, but plan B is to take like a minivan and drive a group of 10 at a time out of the community into a safe neighborhood to train in a park. It is rainy season, so hope like weather permitting, or we'll be able to find some semi-undercover kind of area. And then the gym staff hopefully are going to care for the kids of those women. So like they'll most likely be mothers, so that they can spend an hour just spending time hitting pads, like learning something new, engaging with their bodies, feeling joy, like taking a break from what is an incredibly heavy situation.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, my friend Darren, he's posted on here, and he often asks very direct questions, but I guess it is relevant to ask it, and probably at this point. So he said 90% of Australian Indigenous outback towns have exactly the same problem. Why are you choosing El Salvador?
That's a good question. I don't know that it's a one or the other kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's value in helping Indigenous Australians and there's value in helping Salvadoran people. It's so rare for anybody outside El Salvador to go into these communities and to show that they care.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly not sure what the situation is like in Indigenous communities in Australia. I would
Yeah.
say possibly similar.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think for me, and I don't know how other people think, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, this was something that got presented to me as something that I could participate in as part of this
Yeah.
research. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of came up a couple times, it come up again. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to go and do this. Like somebody has to
Amazing.
go and do
Yeah.
this. And it
Yeah.
spoke to, I really feel like it spoke to my soul. And I was
Yeah.
like, I know this is the community that I want to go and make a difference in. And, you
Amazing.
can't help the
And I
whole
think
world.
I agree, and I think that what you're going to pick up over there, if all goes to one of the many plans that you have, then you'll be able to bring back what you do there and probably apply, a lot of this to what Darren's suggesting out in the Indigenous outback towns, because it does sound like something you could kind of replicate, hopefully. And I love that. I love that thought, of expanding and duplicating, and because obviously you're only going to be able to make a certain amount of difference. We have Will Fagan, the director of the CEO of Fight Legends, calling. I'm just going to get him on the phone. 1 second.
Cool.
Hey, Will, I'm just going to put you on loudspeaker, buddy. You're on loudspeaker. Yo, and you're on the live stream, and we're here with Georgia.
Hey, Will.
Hey, Georgia. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so sick.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't even know why I asked.
We're cranking along. I just had a few hours worth of meetings, and by the end of it, I was about to fall asleep. Every time I have a meeting, I'm like, I can feel myself nodding off.
Yeah, and yet he just persists. Like, I've never seen anyone have as many meetings as Will, and just keep backing it up. So, you're a machine, buddy.
It's relentless. Gonna call out.
Oh, he just hung up.
It's that relentless.
I think his phone's gone flat with that many meetings. Hopefully he calls back in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so duplicating that would be amazing as well. And I think that's awesome.
So that's one of the goals of the project as well, too, I should say, is that, so Noelle is a researcher, first and foremost. So she has an ethics proposal to continue with some research that looks at how being involved with strength training helps change the way that women perceive themselves and how that fits in at having kind of a ripple effect within their society. And
Wait,
so
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but Will is here. I'm just going to bring him in.
Bring him in.
Hey, Will.
My phone died. I apologize.
No,
We thought so.
This is way better to have you pop in here, man. That's awesome.
I don't know if it is, bro. Look at me.
You look great, man. You always look good, man. So what we're up to is Georgia's just kind of explaining right now about strength. About you go cough up a lung. About like how this is possibly a replicatable project and the impact of strength training on these women. So Georgia, do you want to finish off that part and then and just bring Will up to speed a little bit? Yeah.
Totally. So one of the aims of this project is to run a pilot. So 2 sessions per week for 4 weeks is 8 sessions, which is my fundamentals program, to take qualitative data. So to chat to women about how did it work? How did it feel? Did you feel like you had ownership? And then see if we can replicate it on a bigger scale, both within Central America, but then also in other communities, like possibly Indigenous communities here in Australia.
That's awesome. Great. And like, I think now, especially while we've got Will here, because we don't get Will for very long, what I'd love to do is maybe I'm going to share the form that we've got, and you can run through, the ways that people can pledge and, how they can support.
Yes.
And that will kind of give Will kind of some visibility, and, if I'm sure he's going to want to get behind this in some way, shape or form. So I'm just going to share my screen here. All right, share screen.
Water.
Go for it.
Cool, buddy. Go for it, man. All right. Can I do 3 of us and a screen? I can. I love StreamYard. It's such a cool little program.
Yeah, 3 almost fits nicer.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, I'm so fascinated by what you're up to. Like, you're just putting yourself right in the firing line of a really intense situation. Like, I just really admire that. There's so many people who just want to stay comfortable, especially after they've been knocked down by pandemics and, all of the kind of global shit that's going on. You're about to go and stick yourself right in the fire here. But yeah, just run us through this. So this form, if you can, please, Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just kind of summarized a little bit of what the situation is like in El Salvador, very briefly, the context of Pesas y Poder, so the gym. And then we've listed a few really meaningful ways that we can make a difference in this community. So the first thing is that, like I said, this gym got built out of necessity because of COVID, so for it to be open air. But it was first built without bathrooms. So there is a bathroom in a neighboring building that's quite a while away. But if anyone's ever trained before for women with incontinence, for menstruating women, it's really not ideal to have a gym without a toilet. So ideally, we would love to be able to build them a toilet. And so the cost of constructing that would be approximately $8,000 US. Then the next thing is that there's a space next to the gym. It's already set aside, which was put there so that children could have it as a play area. So at the moment, what happens is that mum comes in to train and she just has all her kids kind of around her on the floor. And one thing that I guess is really relevant about this gym is that it's quite controversial in many ways. One of the ways that it's controversial is that it's in the middle of a group of small communities that don't get along. So because they are neighboring communities, they compete for resources. So like food and shelter and things like that. And so the neighboring communities, they don't really like each other. But this gym was set up on the guarantee that it's for everybody. It's a safe space for everybody. And so one of the things that people who don't like the gym, who kind of want it to be shut down, have said is that it's not safe because there's kids crawling around all over the floor, even though they're very well supervised and there's lots of people around watching them. So it'd be incredible for that reason, and also just so that mums can have a bit of a break from having their kids with them 24/7 to focus on them, to have a space where kids could go and play. And so we're also looking for funds to landscape that area. I don't have an exact dollar amount on how much that will be, but it'll be significantly less, I think, than the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we thought about doing that's really important is, like I said, ambulances won't go in and out of the community. So one thing that we really need to do is have someone trained in first aid for the gym. So it'll be a scholarship of $1,000 per year for 6 years to get someone trained in paramedicine. And in return for that scholarship, the person would work in the gym as like a trainer and helping out with all of the day-to-day things to do with running the place, but then would become someone who could treat people who are wounded or need ambulances for any other reasons too. If you could imagine how many things we call ambulances for, then ambulance won't go in because of the risk of violence due to a non-violent situation like a heart attack. People will die from heart attacks because they can't get any source of first aid. And then the last part relates to what we spoke about regarding having to have a plan A and plan B and etc. Is that in the event that the gym is closed because it's too dangerous for participants for us to be meeting as a group, given the current situation, then we'll need to drive them out of the community. And so we're planning for 4 weeks, 2 sessions a week. So 8 sessions in total at $100 per day for us to get a shuttle and a driver to be able to bring them in and out of the community.
So you may or may not need that, but if you don't need that, that money will go to either the bathroom or the scholarship.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing, and definitely seems like it would make a massive difference to these women. Would you have any questions, Will? Because I know we don't have you for very long, and I know you're kind of coming here. We've already been talking for 40 minutes, so you kind of, I think you know a bit about the project, but do you have any questions?
What martial arts are you teaching them?
Kickboxing. So I've got I've been getting donations. I have shitloads of gloves. But I've done a little bit of fundraising, and I'll contribute mostly my money to paying for getting them over. They just hate how we waste gloves here in Australia. I know a number of people have tried to donate old gloves to charities, and charities here just want money. But the community there is so excited that we're going to be bringing equipment. So we've got a bunch of secondhand gloves that we're going to be taking over so that they can do some kickboxing.
And is this gym already up and running?
Yeah.
Crazy. For boys and girls?
For boys and girls, yeah. Normally we would be running it for boys as well too, but it's just too dangerous for men to meet in groups at the moment. They will almost certainly be immediately accused of being part of a gang and arrested.
Wow. So is the gym still running classes?
No, the gym currently is closed to the public, and it goes through periods where it does have to shut down. At the moment is a significant period. We have special permission from the police to enter the community, which is currently protected by a ring of military. So we have permission to go in and work just with women in the community, which they've deemed as not being related to gang activity for now. However, our hope is that we can get a couple of women really excited about kickboxing, and we can get them to star in some videos where they can teach a couple of techniques, and then they can start to bring the young men and any men who are interested in learning as well in, and it can become something that they can perpetuate without us there, so they can keep training once this whole situation hopefully dies down, which eventually it will, because it's incredibly expensive and El Salvador is just daily going deeper and deeper into debt as a result. So hopefully it'll end.
I won't ask you to go on about it for ages, but what's the elevator pitch on the terrible situation that's happening there? Because I'm out of the news.
Yes.
What's happening?
Long story short, the president has suspended the constitution in retaliation to gang violence and has arrested to date 38,000 men predominantly, but also women, without any access to legal representation, proof, lawyers, nothing, and sentenced them to between 20 and 80 years imprisonment. And some people have already started dying because of the conditions in jail. And so what they've done is created military blockades, kind of like the Ring of Steel that we experienced. I almost feel bad comparing it, but you think the Ring of Steel that we experienced because of COVID, but they're targeting not people who are exiting their 5K, they're targeting anybody who could possibly have anything to do with gang activities. And that includes legitimate businesses are being accused of being gang fronts, and people are just being put in jail for being, living in communities.
Hectic.
Yeah, man. And another part about this is that Georgia's setting up something that can be replicated elsewhere. That's a big piece of this. So, this could be something that ongoingly will just open up doors for us to do these sorts of things in lots of communities around the world, in Australia as well. But, wherever people are kind of facing this sort of adversity and this ongoing demoralizing kind of way of living, I guess, is, or just, I don't know if demoralizing is the right word, but just people who just aren't getting that, we have so many access to so many things that build our confidence and build our hope, my life is full of hope, but I can't even imagine what it's like to live in a community like that. I have no idea I can't even relate, I don't have words based on what I've been hearing. Yeah.
That's crazy. Interesting. Like El Salvador's, I wouldn't have, that sucks. The only thing I'd heard of El Salvador this year was their awesome moves in regards to crypto and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like El Salvador made Bitcoin an official currency and bought a shit ton.
That's right.
And like, yeah, have done really good things, set up Bitcoin mining factories on top of volcanic, things. So it's super green powered energy. They've offered citizenship to any Bitcoin holder. They're doing all this progressive stuff. That's rough. This other side of things, that's rough. That sounds, and like for the people, that's messed up. But I think, yeah, you should be able to get some support from, even though we're in a terrible bear market all of a sudden and everything has tanked. Surely the crypto people that are pro Bitcoin maxis that love El Salvador, hearing about support for the people in a terrible position in El Salvador, like the poorest people in El Salvador. I think this should get some support, right? Like we should be able to drum up some support.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, well,
this is going live right now across the Fight Legends Twitch, Fight Legends Twitter, Fight Legends YouTube. This is live everywhere, brother. So I'm hoping that you're right.
Get behind it, people. Get behind it. Bitcoin. Stick some of that damn Bitcoin into doing some good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you going over there yourself, Georgia?
Yes, I'll be there in July.
Crazy. For how long?
A month.
Yep. To run the women's cause and then redo it sort of, and hopefully set up something ongoing there.
Yeah. So we've got also a documentary filmmaker is coming. So someone who's got good quality film equipment. And if we can get buy-in from just a couple or a few people in the community who just like, we've all experienced starter martial art and they're just like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And they really want to be a part of it ongoing. The hope is that we can make videos starring them using language that resonates for them, but also with representation. So rather than me being a white Australian woman teaching kickboxing, it's local Salvadoran women explaining kickboxing. So they have videos to work off if they can't get into the gym, but then also they've got ongoing resources to look back to, and we can run online classes and stuff to touch base to help them keep practicing, or even just keep hitting shit. Like they don't have to do it technically well. I could care less.
Yeah,
that's great. I'm sure we can really help some way with the people support here. I wonder if Francis probably knows some Waco people in El Salvador, right? Like that's all about kickboxing. I'm sure we can get we'll talk more about this offline at some point and really try and get some people at this, not just drum up the money from the people. It's throw some people in that direction, because it sounds like this, you need to be there ongoingly, don't you? Like you're going to inspire a lot of energy when you go, and then it's like, how do you take that and make it persistent and constant? Like how does it stay to do long-term good? I'm all about this. This is great. Good work.
I wonder if we could get our man Ross Levine as well. Ross Levine might get behind it, Who knows?
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good. Like, you're Ross. You want a holiday?
Yeah.
Kick the crap out of someone in El Salvador.
Yeah, some of the best surf beaches in the world. So I don't know if you've heard also, because they're building Bitcoin Beach, which is like where the surf beach is, where they host the surf competition. So El Salvador, apart from this whole hidden side of it, is just an incredibly beautiful place to go and visit. That's not contested, I think. It's just
I did some Googling and it looks magnificent, and the surfing is huge. And it's just, I guess you've got this big gap between the bottom and the top, don't you? You've got some really poor people, and with poverty comes crime. Obviously, comes a lot of things. You got to struggle to survive, and then people get exploited by people with opportunity, and that's where you get gangs and organized crime.
Yeah, Georgia was explaining before that it costs 12 grand US to get smuggled from El Salvador to the States. But then when you get caught there and you get deported back, so there's people who kind of get into gangs in LA and then get deported back. So, they've got kind of, this LA gang culture kind of thing going on, but they come back to El Salvador. So it's like this kind of, yeah, it's a very complex dynamic by the sound of it, and very, like, it's intense.
There's a lot of exploitation on both sides. There's always exploitation on both sides, right? Like if you're a person that's paid to be smuggled out of a poor country, who's waiting for you on the side? The people waiting on the other side are not your friends.
No.
They're not your friends. They're the ones taking you and making you do what they want you to do in order to survive. Because what else are you going to do? You don't know what else to, like, fucked. It's not good. I've seen a lot of that. That's messed up. Martial arts.
So are you willing to put your head on the chopping block in some way for Fight Legends and support?
Yeah, definitely. I will donate. What should we donate? $500 from Fight Legends.
That'd be amazing, man.
That would be incredible.
Right. We'll donate $500 from Fight Legends, and I'll donate $500 myself.
Oh my God, Will!
Wow.
How about that?
All right, and I'll donate $500 myself as well. We're talking US dollars, so that's $1,500.
US dollars. Let's do it. $1,500 US dollars. Anton, me, and Fight Legends.
Oh my God!
Don't be tight asses. Get your money out.
Yeah.
Help these poor people. God damn it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go. I want to go to El Salvador.
Oh, when we return, after we do this feasibility pilot, if it's feasible, you come with me next time we go. If it's
100%.
if it's safe for us to bring you as a man into the community, you come.
I'm gonna give old mate Laser Eyes at the top a call. What's his name? What's the president called?
Bukele.
Don't be worried. I'll get in touch and I'll get a pass. I'll get a Bitcoin pass. I'll get him invested in Fightcoin. I'm like, bro, Bitcoin's not the only thing out there, mate. Get into Fight.
We can't tell him that that's the community that we're going into. When I'm entering, I'm saying I'm doing volunteer work. He very much hates the community that we are. Look, because they are controlled by the gangs. He's anti the gangs. And so he's really created a binary, and us versus them dynamic within the country. Rather than banding together to try and bring people up out of poverty, he's created a hard line. I'm only looking after these people. Everybody else can die or go to jail.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's nasty. Doing the whole, like, what is it called? The where you chop off the poison limb. He's chopping off the limb. It's infected, and it'd be very hard to remove infection. But when the non-infected parts are people, you kind of got to try, don't you? Right? Like, you got to be a little bit more delicate. Oh wow. God damn. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a ruler that isn't partially a dickhead? Come on. Like, right? Is there ever been a president, king or queen that has managed not to hurt people? I don't think so. It's the modus operandum of that level. It's no good. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm glad you're going in there to help people on the bottom. That's good.
We're going in there. It's team now.
We're going in there. We're going in. We are going in. And look, it's important. Maybe you make some really, maybe you document something amazing that helps bring some attention to the innocent people being hurt by the war on gangs.
Yeah. Camera in hand.
Wow.
Well, that's the other thing. It'd be great to just get content so that we can keep sharing this across our social media and supporting your cause and asking for pledges. Like, if we don't make this money come to fruition before you go, we can sure as hell keep promoting it while you're gone. That's another thing that Fight Legends can do. We've got this ever-growing community. We can just, and I do too, and Will does too. and you do too. So if we can just keep getting these messages out there, show real developments, show the bathroom being built as far as we can get it, and then we get more money and we do that, we'll get there. Somehow we're going to get there, you know. So we're at $1,500 so far, everybody, and really appreciate that. I'm just posting that around the place. But whatever you can do, whether it's $1 US, whether it's $10, whether it's $100, $1,000, it's all going to make a difference. And this is not going away, this problem. And we're setting up a platform for ongoing support of this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so important that we don't go into places and say, this is how you heal. This is how transformation needs to happen. And the team that I'm working with are incredible women who really are able to take that perspective of going in and saying, you know, here's powerlifting, but what do you want to make of it? And how would you like to spread it within your community, which is what's already happened. And we're going to go in and say, here's kickboxing, but what do you make of it? Like, what would you call a jab? What would you call a cross? What would you call a hook? Here are the words I think in Spanish, but what do you think of? How do they speak to you? Where do you feel them in your body? What parts do you want to take? And how do you want to run the program? And then we get it as a community-led initiative where we're just kind of giving them the resources to be able to finally make a difference in their own communities. We're empowering them to be able to do that. And I think that's why when we leave, hopefully something's going to stick. Like something is going to have really lit a spark for somebody to say, like, wow, I have this incredible thing. Like Central America and combat sports is one in the, like, they are so intertwined. It's so a part of their culture. Boxing, Mexico and boxing, like really a history of a people who have been so tough, so resilient, fought back against so many different types of oppression, of, you know, land being stolen, of their rights being abused. You know, they really have that fight in them already. I think it's just so cool to be allowed to have an outlet for it, where at the moment, like really, a lot of, they just don't have that access. They don't have access to be able to let that energy, let that fighting spirit, let it go, you know, let their punches fly.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. It gives empowerment and it gives connection and it gives a network, which ends up giving opportunity and hope. Like that's what martial arts does. Martial arts everywhere helps. It more than it contributes, it helps remove people from gangs, drugs, violence, right? It gives you hope out of that. Like they're there anyway, sucking up anyone they can get and getting involved with a gym, doing martial arts, making friends, which connects you to a wider global network. It's literally connecting you to a way out, right? Like, and that's what we want to give people. You know, we gave that to refugees last year in the Middle East, and we will do that again. And now it's a great opportunity to help some people in El Salvador in the exact same way. Give people opportunity to get out of the shit they're in. You know, on you. Like the El Presidente should fucking wake up and pay attention and maybe support schemes like this, because that's what's going to stop violence and gang violence and all that sort of stuff, right?
Education, like training.
Exactly. Exact health, well-being, all that sort of stuff. This is what's needed. And maybe if you do a good job, really good job of explaining that, maybe that can happen, right? You know, who knows? Maybe next year you could be visiting El Presidente and pitching to him with your videos of the opportunity to help save the poorer people in his country, right? Like that should be one of the goals, I think. Get to him, get to the top and say, look, let me help you change things here. Let me help you environment. You got data and statistics you can point to. It's been proven in different countries all around the world. Make a change. You know, this is where it starts, right? This is the beginning. Awesome. I'm fucking 100% behind this. This is sick.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I should say.
Yeah, you should, especially around Will. If you don't swear around Will, he doesn't feel comfortable.
I don't trust you. Fucker, what's going on here? I can't stop swearing. It's disgusting. I have to like give myself a disclaimer when I have meetings these days. I apologize guys, and then I continue. Good on
So
you.
I posted a link. Yeah, I posted. Sorry to cut you off, Will. I'm just letting everyone know I posted a link to the form where people can pledge at the bottom of all of these threads, and it's at the top of these threads as well. And I just really, really hope that everybody who's watched this or watches this can reshare it. Not just reshare it on your own feeds, but share it in every nook and cranny of social media that you can find if you think that you can make a difference with this. Whether it's your local gym, like hopefully, Georgie, you can share this at Absolute. I don't know, but you know, I'll definitely be putting it on the various social media pages that I manage. But if everyone can just share, then hopefully we get enough kind of interest in this, enough momentum that we can, yeah, as Will said, get the wheels in motion for something, and then ultimately something much bigger and like transform the country. That would be, how great would that be? Create a tipping point in El Salvador, and then do the same thing here. Why not in the outback rural areas, as Darren mentioned?
Totally.
Yeah.
I believe martial arts can save the world, like, you know, in many ways. It can end abuse. It can lift people out of poverty. It gives people hope. Everywhere around the world, this works, and I will support this all the way. I think we should attack this.
You're a fucking
It's a beautiful
rock star.
thing, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what country you go to. I've trained in so many different countries where I speak the language or I don't speak the language. As soon as like we step on the mats and we like slap fists or we touch gloves, it doesn't matter. Like we're speaking the same language. And I think like it's such a universal thing. People intuitively know how to fight. Like our bodies want to fight. And so to be able to have that in a filtered kind of like targeted way is just, it's natural.
100%.
Agreed. Well, I think this is a good spot to leave it unless there's anything else you guys want to add. We've talked for an hour. It's a long time to be talking, but it's also been really amazing. I've just discovered so much, and I thank you so much for sharing an hour of your time with me. And I really will. I just thank you so much for coming in and kicking off the, you know, the pledging man inspired me as well. So thank you, brother. And yeah, I really, is there anything else you guys want to add before we wind up?
Don't be tight ass. Anyone watching this, don't be a tight ass. Put some fucking money in, or go to El Salvador and do the hard work yourself. Go help people. They're poor. They're really poor. Most people, no one watching this is as poor as the people in El Salvador. No one. These guys don't have computers. They don't have webcams. They're not watching this shit. You're privileged. We're all privileged. Give them some fucking money. It'll get you some good karma. It'll help save lives. You know, think about the kids. Legit though, like if you've got kids, you love a kid, think about someone you love and picture them as a peasant, possibly getting abused, raped, beaten, kidnapped, extorted in fucking El Salvador. Give some money to this chick so she can go save him. Like, just do that.
I'm on board.
Yeah. Or share it to someone else to do that, right? Like, if you're not going to fucking give money here, don't be a lazy asshole. Share this video and
do
share
something.
the link. Do something.
Yeah.
Do something. Just do a little bit. Don't be a prick. Right? There you go. That's what I think.
Perfect.
If you don't, when you've got an opportunity, if someone's like, hey, I'm going to go do a thing, but it's going to cost me this, but I'm definitely going to save those people. Why would you not, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Look, if you can spare anything, you should.
Don't.
Sure.
It's willful ignorance. It's like, I'm going to look away. I can't. No. Fuck you.
For sure. I mean, and I do want to say to all the people who like didn't necessarily have money but had old gloves lying around that they had donated, like that was huge too, that we were able to hit our quota for gloves that, you know, I'm going to carry over with me because we just can't trust the courier system there at all. We couldn't freight them. It's too big of a risk that they would just mysteriously go missing. So I'm going to be carrying about 20 pairs of gloves.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the reality. But we had people donate gloves and we also had people support, you know, for the cost of putting extra luggage and stuff like that on. So, you know, those to all the people who supported that too, I thank you so much. And you're going to get to see those gloves on people. Big of a risk.
And
they would just mysteriously go missing.
It costs nothing to share this video. right?
Mhm.
And tag your friends. If you do that and you don't give money, you're not an asshole. Share the video, tag your friends. If you watch this and you don't share, tag, and inbox at least one person, you're a motherfucker. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. Let's just do that. Let's play that part. Whether it's money or sharing, everyone play your part, please.
Please,
it's
please.
free. It's free.
Yeah.
Just click a button, right? There you go. That's what I think. My strong opinions on all of this.
All right. Oh, definitely, I've spent an hour with two of my favorite people. Thank you so much, guys. Georgia, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Will, thank you so much for just being balls to the wall about this, brother. That's what I knew I could count on with you, man. And even when you pretty much have pneumonia, I'm pretty sure about that. Just still here.
I'm pretty sure I have pneumonia as well, bro, but I've got some ivermectin on the way on the black market.
Cool.
And
all right.
I am balls to the wall at everything, or I'm not participating. That's how it works.
Awesome. All right, guys. You have a great night, okay? And we'll talk again soon. Oh, Georgia, keep coming back on. Keep us updated, okay? All the time.
Yes,
Come
of
back
course,
on.
of course, of
Okay.
course.
All right, cool. All right, everybody. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night.
Bye.